Let's begin.
You're listening to Tonebender's Sound Design Podcast, presented by Sound Ideas. This is the show where we talk with the sonic artists behind our favorite films, games, and series. As the new year begins, Sound Ideas is offering its largest sale to date. For a limited time, receive 55% off professionally recorded sound effects and music libraries. This New Year promotion applies across their esteemed catalog, making it an ideal moment to expand or update your professional collection with authentic audio and a proven standard of quality. The Sound Ideas New Year's sale is available now for a limited time, so go visit sound-ideas.com right away. Hello and welcome to Tonebenders. My name is Tim Muirhead, and I am excited to be talking about the new film, Marty Supreme, today. The film was directed by Josh Safdie and follows Marty Mauser, an elite table tennis player, as he tries to make his way through a very difficult year in which many of the difficulties he's brought upon himself. Stay tuned after I wrap the interview about Marty Supreme to hear a few quick interviews I was able to do backstage with the Sound Award winners at the Directors Guild of Canada Awards. It was a super fun night, and I got to catch up with the winners of the 4 Sound Awards right as they walked off stage after giving their acceptance speech. But before we get to those, let's talk about the excellent sound work in Marty Supreme. With me today is Skip Livesay, the film's supervising sound editor and re-recording mixer. It's lovely to have you back on Tonebenders, Skip. This is your 3rd time on the show, but I've not spoken to you in nearly 5 years since Judas and the Black Messiah, so it's great to talk to you again. Welcome back.
Thank you. Nice to be back. Thanks for having me.
Let's start with talking about doing the sound for ping pong or table tennis. I've had to cut a very short scene of ping pong earlier in my career, and I found it to be really difficult because the sound of the ball is just a little tick sound. And making that cut through music and crowd, I found to be very difficult. Do you want to talk about your approach to the sounds of the ping pong or table tennis?
First, we should give credit to Paul Ermson, my co-supervisor and sound designer. He is also the sound effects mixer during the final mix. The way I like to work is to have a equal and separate approach. I work on the dialogue during the preparation, and my sound designer co-mixer works on all the sounds. And so Paul is the one who did all of the hard lifting for ping pong sounds. And the way the ping pong works in the movie is it seemed like it was going to be a deep dive into balance and editing. And there were definitely a hero sound and an enemy sound. His main opponent is based on a real person, had this secret paddle, which was supposed to be silent. And you couldn't tell if it was one kind of a spin or another. So it was a big story point, but it also seemed to be a potential for creating some kind of exotic sounds for the paddle. In fact, the way the movie evolved, we just sort of naturally let it flow. And in fact, the more we tried to make it silent and mysterious, the more it just seemed kind of missing. So we ended up having, Paul ended up having some basic sounds. We basically found through the process that the ping pong sound is all you really needed. You needed to have one person hits it and it has a certain sound, and his opponent hits it and it has a different but similar sound. That was really satisfying, and we looked no further, and we replaced some of the kind of mystery sounds with more ordinary sounds, and it made the movie flow better. And the truth is, in a lot of the sequences where there is ping pong, there's also music. And you think that's going to be like a conflict, like a battle of tempos and pacing and stuff. But that also had a kind of natural flow to it as well. And maybe there was some genius picture editing and music editing things happening that I wasn't aware of. But I have to say, I think we followed our noses to have a successful balance.
This movie landed at 2.5 hours. What was the first cut that you saw?
It's an interesting Josh and his coworker, Ronnie Bronstein, they worked together for quite a long time. They worked together on Uncut Gems and other films. There's kind of it's not a sibling rivalry, but it's an awareness that there's two people working towards a common goal. They work in concert very often. It's additive, but Ronnie likes to talk about how they battle things out and they kind of vet things. He refers to it as a brutal, vicious process where they yell at each other about how it isn't working and how they make everything endure a test of fire before signing off on it. And in a way, they're just sort of picking a battle and trying to figure out what's the right answer and convince each other of what to do next. But I think it's also a two heads thinking as one conscience trying to sort out things in the shape of two bodies. Joel and Ethan Coen work in a similar way. I'm a little bit of a brother's coworker, actually. And now they're all working separately. So now I have 4 brothers to work with.
Well, that leads me maybe to my next question. You worked with the Safdie brothers on Uncut Gems and when they were working together. And then over this last year, both of them had a movie come out that they directed on their own, which you worked on both, Smashing Machine and Marty Supreme, which we're talking about. Do you want to kind of compare and contrast the Safdie brothers and their approaches when working separately?
On Uncut Gems, it was really kind of a trio, because Ronnie's definitely a brother from another mother. And there is a bit of a unit there that they approach things. They have similar tastes and ideas, and they approach things in a fairly equally aware kind of mode where there's a kind of a wavelength between the three of them. And even though they were separated on these 2 movies, I still felt like the crew. I felt the 3 brothers working together. Smash Machine is really quite different, although he might have enjoyed having Josh and Ronnie together working on that as he is used to. He sort of went it alone, basically. And I guess because it was very true to life sort of story, more so than Marty, I think he felt that he was safe, basically. Even though he might be used to having Josh and Ronnie to call on, I think he's a confident filmmaker. He was really actually joyously liberated making that film. I think he seemed to really blossomed in the process. He was exuberant, generally was his style of the day. And that's the way we did the movie. It was really like a labor of love.
In Marty Supreme, I'm going to take kind of example that might not seem important, but I think it's an interesting moment. And if you could maybe elaborate on how you use this kind of idea throughout the film. Early in the film, within like the first couple minutes, Marty is trying to sneak a girl into the stockroom in the shoe store, and his boss calls him in and shows him a business card that has his name on it and is trying to get him to commit to working at the shoe store. During this entire scene, we hear a horse race on the radio. We never see a TV or a radio really that explains why we're hearing the horse race, but it's just this really cool element that kind of tells us more about the kind of person that owns this store, that they're betting on the horses and stuff. I'm wondering, was that in the script? Did you guys come up with that on your own? And were there other places in the movie that you tried to kind of use audio to delve deeper into a person's character?
That, I think, was scripted, but it was definitely presented to us during the turnover. It was part of the audio tracks that we were given. Basically, everything in the movie was a multi-track recording. And so we got dozens of tracks from the picture edit. And that track was definitely selected by Josh and Ronnie. And there are a lot of things in the movie that were either things that they happened on while they were editing or was something in there. They do have a kind of magnetic collection agency sort of approach to picture and sound and story ideas and casting, where they write it all down and they chase things until they figure out whether it's either it's in the movie or hired or, yeah, let's not do it, let's think of it another way. But they have everything is part of, could be in the movie. What if Josh and Ronnie are very, very diligent about finding things and putting them in the movie. In the bowling alley sequence, there's a lot of radio broadcast when the DJ comes on between songs and starts talking about local businesses or other types of advertising. That stuff made it into the movie. That all came from Josh and Ronnie as well. There isn't always the space for those ideas in the filmmaker's head. Sometimes you can hit on a formula and you can squeeze something in. It's kind of a big ask because the filmmaker has to actually clear a little spot for that to exist within his concept of the movie or her concept of the movie, even though it seems like a fairly positive adventure to find things that are period specific and invoke a place and a time. There is the other wall, which is what's the place and the time of the film in the filmmaker's head and their conception of the movie. Is it about crickets or dog barks, or is it about a radio sound, or in this case, the racetrack announcer? The way that I'm used to working and the way we worked on Marty, we have a long period of several months where we're working through all the scenes in the movie and trying to find the best and most interesting sounds. And we have time to do the what if experiments and look into recordings of the time and TV ads and things like that, where it's possible to find some audio that is authentic to the period that can sort of give a more texture to the fabric. Many of the people who are seeing the movie don't have those memories or associations, and it might become distracting to some people because they don't know what it is. They're not used to hearing that sound. So that adds a layer of complexity to making sounds and selecting sounds for the track. And then even then, when as the sound department working on possibilities, you still have to get the filmmaker to figure out whether or not it's helping the audience understand the story and appreciate the story, or if it's an unnecessary distraction. If you look at that sound of that horse race, that's a very good example of it can go either way. So they heard that sound and they liked the way it sounded, and they put it into the movie, and then it became part of the fabric of the movie.
Yeah, it's a tricky balance. I wasn't aware of it the first time I saw it. The second time I watched it, when I knew I was going to be talking to you, I was just like, oh, that's a really cool element, an extra layer that makes me know that this guy who runs the store is going to be someone that's betting on horses. And then when he comes back later in the movie, you kind of understand his more, I don't know if gangster tendencies is right, but he's a betting man. He's not on the straight and narrow, maybe. It was a fun little moment. I wanted to ask you quickly about, you were recently announced as the Cinema Audio Society's Career Achievement Award recipient for this year. How did you find out that was going to be the case?
Peter Kurland and I, Peter's the president of CS at the moment. Until recently, we'd worked on all of the Coen Brother movies together, and we're very good friends. And he called me and said that I'd been selected by the board, and do I accept? And I said, yes, of course I accept. It's a little bit strange. There's two levels. One is I started as a sound editor, sound designer, and all the early films I worked on, I worked as a sound editor, and someone else was the mixer. In most cases, that was Tom Fleischman or Lee Dichter or some other New York mixers. Basically, the Coen brothers encouraged me to learn how to mix so that I could be the sound designer and the mixer. That was something they wanted to see if that worked or not, and they wanted me to make that experiment. And then I started this sort of middle period where I was supervising sound editor or sound designer, and then also the mixer, re-recording mixer. And then lately I've been working quite often just as the re-recording mixer without being involved in the editing process. And I find that to be really challenging. And I often feel like I'm only doing part of my job. A lot of people work that way, and I'm not opposed to it. It's a new idea to me. The CAS is about mixing. It's about the location mixers and the re-recording mixers. And as I said to Peter Kurland, I feel a little bit like a charlatan because I'm working as a sound designer and a sound editor, as well as working as a mixer. And It's not exactly a conflict, but it is kind of a rub. At least it seemed that way to me. Then if you join that together with the New York LA rub, you have a curious why how I got selected. But in any event, Peter and CAS people are assure me that there is no mistake. They selected me from my body of work, and I'm trying to just simply be graciously accept and enjoy the process.
Are you going to go to Los Angeles for the award ceremony?
Oh, of course, yeah.
Excellent.
It's at the beginning of March, and my good friend Alfonso Cuarón is going to present. There'll be a video which they're going to show at the ceremony of clips of films that I've worked on. That list gets quite a bit shorter when it has to include mixing. It can't do the right thing and Goodfellas and many movies where I only worked as a sound editor shouldn't necessarily be part of the CAS presentation. Those movies, like for instance, Barton Fink or Miller's Crossing, two of the movies that I'm most proud of, were mixed by Lee Dichter. So, like I say, it's not uncommon for, I guess probably everyone has a varied career, and they don't come out of the box as a re-recording mixer. Or maybe they do, but at least now, most of the mixers I know had other jobs before they became mixers. So anyway, as a mixer, I can't take credit for Barton Fink, which I think is one of the most interesting movies that I've ever worked on, for instance.
Well, I told you this probably a decade ago, the first time I interviewed you, but Barton Fink and Miller's Crossing were two movies that really, I was in high school at that time, and I loved them so much, and the sound in them made me kind of become aware that doing sound for movies was a thing even. They made me fall in love with the idea of that, and I ended up going to college for it and getting a career in it. So thank you very much for having that very small influence on my life, and I'm sure hundreds, if not thousands of other people who are working in the industry today that were inspired by you. And I think you are more than deserving of the CAS award, and I will be at the CAS award, so hopefully we run into each other then.
Excellent. We can toast each other's career achievements.
There you go. More people will be paying attention to yours, as they should. It was great talking to you. Have a great rest of your day.
Good talking to you. Thank you, too.
As I just mentioned in the interview, Skip had a big influence on me personally. In high school, I loved Barton Fink and Miller's Crossing, and I got them on DVD, and I watched them over and over again, and slowly started becoming aware of the sound work and how it was manipulating and leading the audience, and it really opened my eyes, or I guess ears, to sound in movies. So it's always great when I get to talk to Skip. It makes me really happy. I actually got to see a really early screening of Marty Supreme about a month before its release in order to talk to Skip so I could release this episode when the movie came out. But then our schedules would just not link up, and I didn't get to talk to him about it until now. And I could only get him for just this short period of time. But as I would say to my kids when they were little, you get what you get, and you don't get upset. A short talk with Skip is better than no talk with Skip, in my opinion. I have a bit of a bonus for you. Back in November, I was able to go to the Directors Guild of Canada Awards and do some quick interviews with the winners in the Sound Category Awards. You may be asking yourself, why do the Directors Guild Awards have sound categories? And I can only answer that by saying Canada is a weird place. The Directors Guild is home to obviously directors, but also production designers, picture editors, and sound editors. So their awards cover excellence in all of these roles. They give out 4 sound awards, one for Best Sound Editing Feature Film, and then Movie or Television and Miniseries, and then another for Comedy or Family Series, and then another for Dramatic Series. The very first winner of the night went to Winona Earp Vengeance. This TV movie of the long-running supernatural Western series had some really fun sound design in it. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
What was your favorite scene that you had to work on for this one for sound editing?
Oh, boy. There's a tremendous gunfight at the end of the movie, and that was brilliantly choreographed, and I loved cutting it. It was fantastic.
When you're cutting the guns, obviously these aren't traditional guns. What are you building the sounds out of?
She's got a gun that kills demons. And it's got a very special sound, and it's way over the top. Imagine the biggest Hollywood gun you've heard and then quadruple it. It's just huge. And that's part of this show. It's go big or go home, right? Anything that comes up in this show for a sound designer is a dream job, because just do whatever you want. Make it big, make it over the top. That's why I love the show.
Can you each give me your role on the project?
I'm Matt Hussey, dialogue primarily, some ADR editing as well, but dialogue, yeah.
Dave Johnson, dialogue.
Kevin Banks, music editor.
Mark Schnuriski, sound effects editor.
Janice Cirilli, dialogue and ADR editor.
What was the schedule on this? How much time did you have to work on it?
It was a little different from our normal series. This was a feature length, 3 weeks, I believe. Yeah.
But fourth for sound effects?
Because a lot of it was new for him, so it was like...
This one was wall-to-wall action. He pulled out all the stops, so yeah, it's 4 weeks, and it was tight. It was a lot to do in 4 weeks.
Awesome. Well, I'll let you get back to the awards. Thank you very much. Congratulations, everybody. Next up was the winner of the Best Dramatic Series Sound Editing, and it went to the final season of A Handmaid's Tale. A couple of the winners that night have been on Tonebenders for a few different times, and I'm actually kind of confused how I've never done an episode specifically about A Handmaid's Tale, because it is extremely detailed and has intense sound work. So let's remedy that a tiny bit by talking with them after their big win at the DGC Awards. Congratulations. Do you want to just go around the horn and say your name and your role on the project?
Sure. Dustin, dialogue editor. Dave, sound effects editor.
Nadia, Foley and assistant sound editor.
David McCallum, supervising sound editor.
Jane Tattersall, supervising sound editor. And Abby Austria, assistant sound editor.
Kristen Hunter, dialogue editor.
Amazing. So this is a culmination of many, many years on this series. This is the last season. Do you want to talk a little bit about what it's like to come to the end of the show?
The end of the show has a lot of emotion wrapped up in it. I think after 10 years of working with these people and getting so close to them and the passion that they brought to it, I think in particular the relationship with Elizabeth Moss, who over the last few years we all got to work with very closely as she became more of a creative force directing the show and producing the show. She was actively involved in all aspects of the sound and post-production in general. And to see the show that mattered so much to her, her face is on every poster and every billboard, and she takes the show all over the world, to be able to experience that that's what she's going to, but she still comes and spends time with us doing the detailed work that we do. It really does lift you up at the end of the day, even when in the nitty gritty, it's pretty grinding.
Do you want to talk about your favorite scene that you worked on this season?
Definitely the execution scene or the karaoke scene in the final episode. I absolutely loved that when the whole cast from past and present came together. I thought it was absolutely beautiful.
Congratulations. It's a big win. I'm really happy for you all.
Awesome. Thanks, Tim.
I'm not sure how many people outside of Canada know about the series North of North. I believe it is on Netflix in the rest of the world. It's a comedy about an Inuk woman living in the far north of Canada, going through life's challenges. It's kind of a blend of a small-town comedy that also deals with the unique challenges of living in the Arctic. North of North's sound team won the award for Best Comedy Sound Editing. I'm here with the crew that just won for Best Comedy Sound Editing. Congratulations. This is for North of North. Do you guys want to talk about what it was like designing the sound and collecting ambiences and such for the town way up north in Iqaluit there?
Only a little bit of actually production audio. So a lot of it was designed on sort of research. You know, we were told that there's crows, the pass-bys are seasonal. So in the wintertime, there's snowmobiles and stuff going by. And then in the summertime, when things sort of start to warm up, there are ATVs and whatnot, pickup trucks. So sort of seasonal slushiness and snow sort of stuff to be aware of. That's, you know, so that was interesting. And they didn't want any whistly wind, which was a big thing because most of our libraries are full of that sort of stuff. So it was a challenge coming up with the sound of the air and the presence and having those change from location to location to have a definition. You know, so
that's a real challenge. I'm just going to go around the horn here and everyone say what their role was and their name, please.
My name is Mark Dachak. I was the ADR supervisor, and I cut all of the ADR for this show.
I was a sound assistant for the dialogue and ADR.
And your name?
Jean Bod.
Brent Pickett. I was the dialogue editor on the show.
Ed Douglas, sound editor.
Rob Higginis, also known as Radar. I did the music editing.
The ADR, Up in Iqaluit, I'm assuming there isn't any amazing ADR studio available.
So I actually made a shout out to, we had a guy named Chris, I'm going to butcher his name, I think, Ikonomopoulos, Greek, obviously. His name was dropped at the beginning. We didn't have anybody who could facilitate the ADR for us in Iqaluit. There was nobody out there who knew how to operate Pro Tools or any other DAW for that matter. Somebody dropped his name. He lived in Ottawa. I reached out to him. We had a meeting with him. It seemed like he felt confident enough that he could pull it off. So we flew him out there about 5 different times. He came with a Gorilla ADR rig, set it up there, and he turned out some of the best ADR we had on the show. And I would say probably about 80% of the ADR was done there with local talent. So without him, we literally would not have been able to do it. So this is definitely shared with him, 100%.
Gorilla ADR, I love it. That's awesome. And do you want to talk quickly about the music? This is not your standard needle drops in this show.
No. It was Michael Perlmutter was our music supervisor, and he coordinated a lot of Inuk artists. Some of them we used their original music, and there were even cases where they recorded music specifically for it. Some of it was covers, but it was done in the Inuk language. It was just amazing. We experienced throat singing, which is something that not many people know of, and it's just mind-blowing as to the sound and the power of that.
Amazing. Congratulations on the win, and thanks for talking to me today.
Finally, we have the Best Feature Film Sound Editing Award, and it was a bit of a surprise this year. The winning film is called 40 Acres, and it was up against really large films with huge budgets starring A-list actors like Margot Robbie, Pedro Pascal, Colin Farrell, Gerard Butler. But 40 Acres has no household names in it. In the program, it lists all the people nominated in the category, and the sound editors for these other huge films, their lists were really long, but for 40 Acres, it only had 2 names. I don't want to use the word upset, but it was a big and welcome surprise that a smaller film with big ambitions could take home this award. If you get a chance, make sure you check out 40 Acres. It's a really interesting film.
The big winners tonight for sound editing feature film. Do you want to just quickly introduce yourself and say your role?
Sure. Ed Douglas, sound designer.
Dermaine Finlayson, dialogue editor.
And Ed, you're double winner tonight. How are you feeling?
Pretty good, actually. Feels pretty good. So it's nice to have the acknowledgement from, fellow DGC members. So,
did you see this coming?
I did not, personally. I did not see this coming.
It was pretty stiff competition, and some of those other films had budgets much bigger and sound teams much bigger. Do you want to talk about how you managed to compete with that on the smaller budget and smaller team?
Long hours.
Time.
Yeah. So that was the thing. We had the most philosophical spotting session with RT, sort of going through on how society fell apart, the whole backstory and the mother-son aspect of the story, which he said was kind of autobiographical in a way between him and his mom.
Director RT.
So he'd been honing the idea of the script for at least 10 years in some form or fashion. So it was really nice to see his first feature film, and we're grateful to be a part of that.
Absolutely.
In this kind of near future dystopian, everything's gone wrong, you can't have the same sounds that are happening in a real production, planes in the distance and stuff. How much trouble did you have cleaning up all this dialogue?
You take it piece by piece, basically. Thankfully, I had enough time. Thankfully, I could lose a bit of sleep, and I was comfortable with that. But I found some new software that really helped because we had a bit of a bigger ADR line count to start with that I absolutely had to reduce. And so some of the software and processes that I figured out while working on this movie actually helped quite a bit.
How do you go finding the sound of this world that doesn't exist?
Well, there's another challenge, right? So I talked about no wind in the Arctic on North of North. Well, this one was, again, no birds and no other cars or vehicles and no wildlife of any sort. It's just basically insects. In our spotting session, we had sort of come to a determination that the family homestead would have a set of insect sounds that we're used to so that it feels like home. We're accustomed to it. And as we travel into the cornfield and further afield, the insects become more aggressive because a lack of natural predators. There may be insects migrating up from South America even, and what they would sound like. Would they get bigger in size? And so we played with that, played with subtle distortion on them, and came up with a whole layer of sounds for morning, afternoon, and night for each set of locations. So as you travel through it, subtly in the background, there's a shift. So you know you're not in Kansas anymore. When you go away from the home and you're out in a field in the middle of the night, you feel like something bad could happen, and it could be insect-based. So
it's awesome when you can use the sound to build tension and not just leave that to the music. When the sound design can do it, it's so much more effective.
I really want to point out the breaths that we recorded in ADR that no actor likes to do. The breaths and efforts, they really just pay off because it's not something you're conscious of, but you really feel, the panting, the kind of worried breathing, turning the corner, going into the room where you don't know if there's bodies, you don't know what you're going to find. All those things really just add to the tension.
We never think of dialogue editing as sound design, but you're right. The breathing is sound design because it's figuring out the tension and layering it on. Congratulations, guys. I'm so happy for you. Let's go party.
Cheers.
While we're talking about awards, congrats to all the nominees that have been recently announced for the Golden Reels and the CIS Awards. I hope to do similar backstage interviews at those as well. Talk to you soon. As the new year begins, Sound Ideas is offering its largest sale to date. For a limited time, receive 55% off professionally recorded sound effects and music libraries. This New Year promotion applies across their esteemed catalog, making it an ideal moment to expand or update your professional collection with authentic audio and a proven standard of quality. The Sound Ideas New Year's sale is available now for a limited time, so go visit sound-ideas.com right away. Tonebenders is produced by me, Timothy Muirhead. Theme music is by Jim Guthrie. You can reach me via email through info@tonebenderspodcast.com. Follow Tonebenders on Instagram to stay on top of new episodes. If you like the show, you can help us out by spreading the word to your friends and colleagues, or leave us a tip. Just go to tonebenderspodcast.com and click support.